Hi Dan, thank
Hi
you for
Ben.
coming today. So we're here today to talk about your acting and some of your work that you've done. So this is the first interview of the BTG this year, and the first one I've done in about a year.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about yourself and when you got into acting and stuff.
Well, my name's Daniel Taylor. As you know, I'm an actor. I'm a theatre producer. I'm also a musician. So I work not just as an actor. I work as a actor musician as well. So, which kind of opens my fields somewhat. I started out in theatre when I was at school. I took drama.
Yep.
Mainly because I couldn't run fast, and and I did drama, and from there on in, when I was leaving school, I don't think I was bad at school, but I was somewhat difficult to sort of place, and I think my English teacher was also my drama teacher, and she kind of took me under her wing a little bit, and she found this sort of YTS, this youth training scheme. Which is back in 1989, can you believe? And I ended up on a YTS in a theatre, being paid £29.50 a week, working in technical stage management. And I did that for a year, and then I moved to a different theatre. I moved to a theatre in Chester, actually, and I worked which was a rep company then. Based at the Gateway Theatre Chester, and I carried on my YTS, but it was more, I was always progressing in that way, sort of theatre, and while I was doing all of this, I got involved with a youth theatre in North Wales called Clwyd Youth Theatre, and I went off to Clwyd Youth Theatre, and it turns out it was one of the best youth theatres you could attend anywhere in the country, because of the nature of how the director then worked and the hours. It was very intense, and a lot of people that attended this youth theatre tended to sort of veer towards drama school, mostly in London back then, and that was how it was. So I did my sort of 2 years on the YTS in technical stage management, learnt about my craft from a technical point of view, and then I started getting more and more involved in front of the camera and on the stage, of course, and where we really learnt about our craft through working through a lot of the classics, which is what the director did. From the youth theatre, I wasn't particularly academic. But obviously there was something there that was waiting to be sort of unearthed, I guess, and polished. And a few years later, in 1992, I got into drama school in London at a place called Webber Douglas. It's a very famous drama school. Originally it was a singing college, became a drama school, and it was one of the best you could go to learn your trade as an actor. So I went and did a 3-year classical training course at Webber Douglas. Some of the best teachers you could ever wish to be trained by, some of which are still friends today. And literally from leaving Webber Douglas, it was on our final term. We do a lot of plays for agents and casting directors, but we also do a thing called a showcase. So you pick two-minute monologues, and you and all your year, and some people from other years, and the postgraduates, and 2 year, we all come together and we do this big sort of a big evening and day actually for the agents, which were then from London, and because of the prestige of the college, of course, we attracted quite a lot of really, very good agents, and I was just very lucky that day to get picked up. And then I went straight into television, and my first job was playing a Russian footballer called Alex Zubarov, who was signed for 3.5 million from Moscow Dynamo. And yeah, it was about a football promoter at the time. There was a lot of stuff on the news about a man called George Graham, who was a manager for Arsenal.
Yeah.
And it was all about backhanders and this and that. Anyway, this was about a football agent.
Yeah.
And I ended up falling in love with the manager's daughter.
Yeah.
There you go. But I had to speak Russian through that, so that was my first job. And then from there on in, I went into various sort of shows like Game On. I went into The Bill. I did The Bill twice, both sides of the law.
Yeah.
I went to Brookside. Yeah, so it just kind of, and just commercials after commercials, and lots of different types of commercials, which have been fun. Some of which I've blagged a little bit, not gonna lie.
Yep.
But yeah, that's really where my career sort of started, and I'm still here in 2024, and I work right across many different sort of genres of performance, really. And in the last sort of 10, 15 years, I've been working an awful lot on stage.
Yes.
Most notably shows like Blood Brothers, Through a Glass Onion, where I played John Lennon for his widow, which was quite a big deal for me. And most recently, I've been doing the George Harrison story, Tommy Cooper.
Yep. I saw that one on your spotlight.
Yeah. And I actually played Hitler in a film last year. So I mean, I've gone from half-wits to drug dealers to now dead people, Ben. Yeah. So who knows which route it may take next, but it's I'm just happy to work in an industry which obviously, as you know, is precarious and it's tough to get work. And so that's where I'm at. I also work as a theatre producer. I produce shows, and I direct them as well, and I write music.
Yes.
There you go.
What's been one of your most memorable roles?
I think one of the most memorable roles, I think, of course, Sammy in Blood Brothers is always going to be one that is very close to me. Sammy is someone who was, for me, wasn't a bad lad. He was a little bit misunderstood, and that's the way that I always like to play him. I think play him with more vulnerability, as well as being scary. We could be quite sort of playing vulnerability is such a if you can play it, I think you should try and use it as an actor. It's a great quality to have. Yeah. But I think really, given my love for the Beatles, and my family actually used to knock around with them, and my love for songwriting, which was a hobby, by the way, that got out of hand. That's what I call it. I played John Lennon, which I was just telling you. And I think that really was something that really stood out for me. I think for many reasons, I love the idea of, it was an Australian company. I'd already done a couple of plays about him, and people knew about my work as a singer-songwriter. Also, I performed in musicals. But I was very much interested in the idea that it was a one-man show, but it was almost, the way it was described to me at the time was, it was a one-man show with a guy on the piano and me on guitar. And they'd managed to get the rights to all his solo work, and also, obviously, his work with the Beatles, which was key, because it meant we could, I mean, the body of works, as you know, as everyone knows, is quite astonishing, really. But the idea of it was, it was the idea of a drowning man and his life flashing before him. So it was all the people that helped shaped John Lennon into the person he was. So, at one point he comes out, and he's, it's a pretty sort of mild of a day, and he's in New York and he's with Yoko, and the next minute he could be talking about the loss of his mum. His mum was run over and killed by a drunken off-duty policeman outside his house in Menlove Avenue. at Mendips, and then going on to writing and talking about how, you know, how that just kept it, and the work ethic with Paul McCartney, and, you know, talking about trying to get the green card in New York, the racism that went on with Yoko, the having kids, the Lost Weekend, which went on over 18 months, where Yoko asked him to leave, and so for me that was really to do that show, and we went over 8 countries, and to finish in Los Angeles when we started in Liverpool. Had a big bedding, by the way. The press for that show was huge. Wherever we went, there was a big press. But we started with a bedding at the Hard Day's Night Hotel, and we had all the press on the bed, and we finished in Los Angeles, and the response everywhere was incredible. But I think going from Liverpool, his hometown, to America, which is where he went to live, you know, and they very much sort of adopted John as one of their own as well. And wherever we went, people were mourning him, you know. So they wouldn't quite, when people watch a show, they just sort of get off, get the jackets and leave. With this, the auditorium was still, people wouldn't leave. And it was the same response that we had wherever we went with it. It was like, you know, I never got to say goodbye to John Lennon, you know, and everyone held a piece of him in some kind of way. But it was very profound over there. I remember one chap came up to me and he gave me a copy of the Quran. He said it's what John would have wanted. I remember these ladies, these big mamas, front of house, giving me holding my hand, saying, let's get Danny home safe to Liverpool. The response was incredible. So for me, that will always be, but yeah, there's so much stuff to sort of, to choose from. I've been very fortunate in that way, you know, so. Yeah, but I think I'll go with the John Lennon one, just after Sammy Johnston.
That's usually the impact that one-man shows have, though, really, isn't it? You know, because I've seen quite a few one-man shows the last couple of years, and some of them would have been about Quentin Crisp, Howard's End, which is about Frankie Howard, and the audience have pretty much loitered around after show instead of just grabbing their coats and going off. Because of the impact that those characters have, like Quentin and Frankie and, you know, the other people. So what you said there about playing John Lennon and, you know, the audience and that from what I've seen from one-man shows, that is quite common. So it's great, isn't it? You know, as a performer.
Well, it
have
is.
That,
I think when someone, I mean, I'm at the moment I'm touring a show as Tommy Cooper, which has the blessing of the Tommy estate, and I've been sort of working away. It used to be a 3-hander. It was an autobiographical celebration, and we had his wife in it as well, Dove, he affectionately called her, and Miff Ferry, which was the agent, the manager, if you like, the personal manager for Tommy, and they didn't get on very well. In fact, they didn't get on at all, and so we focused the show very much on that. And then after the lockdowns, or during the lockdowns actually, there was a promoter, a friend of mine called Bill Elms, in Liverpool, and said, can you make Tommy Cooper into a one-man show? And I thought, oh, everyone needs a good laugh right now.
Yeah, they do.
And it's certainly after all of that. And so I did an outdoor performance of Tommy Cooper, but it was a live and unleashed thing. So I took all the acts, as you can imagine, and literally just sandwiched it all together. But the wonderful thing about the show is that we have many moments where he's sort of, he'll sort of these anecdotes, you know, where he'll talk about where he's met his wife, or he'll talk about the Fez and how the Fez came about, you know, and some great, incredible stories. Other ones where he used to get heckled in the working men's clubs of London or the north of England. You know, so playing Tommy Cooper, and again, it's as you say, Ben. It's these people have had an effect, you know, you know, in people's living rooms for many years, and he's a wonderful character to play, because he's, of course, the thing with Tommy is it's all about the innocence. And I was talking to you before about vulnerability. And I work with a lot of students where I do one-to-one, and I'm always talking to them about, in fact, in Blood Brothers, we don't play children, we play the innocence.
Yeah.
We've got it. Oh, really?
Yeah.
And your kids? What? The F word? Whoa!
Yeah. I remember seeing Blood Brothers when I was a kid. Yeah.
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 And it's that same thing, and I think it's a great, like I said before, it's with Tommy. He didn't think he was very funny, you know.
Yeah.
And he was like, "What, I'm funny? Am
Yeah.
I?
Yeah.
Am I really funny?"
Yeah.
Because
Well,
that was one of the lovely
yeah.
qualities about him, and I think.
And
Yeah.
it's a bit like Frankie Howard. Like, if people around my age, and I'm 23, if people look at Frankie Howard today, they're like, yeah, I don't find that funny. You know, that's mostly what people around my age would think. But I'm quite old-fashioned. You know, I like that kind of stuff from the 70s. You know, I used to watch The Sweeney when I was a kid and stuff like that.
Cool.
So, you know, I find Up Pompeii and Carry On, what Frankie did, is quite amusing.
Yeah.
So I know that it's a great effect to have in one-man shows. And one-man show that I've been playing at the idea of doing for the last 2 years, to direct and write, is about Jeremy Brett, who had an immense impact on the British population. So he played Sherlock Holmes in the Granada series in the 80s. And
Wow.
he was quite dedicated to the role, where he literally made himself ill because he went full method. And he passed away from cancer in 94, 95. And to this day, people still talk about the series and him playing the role. And, you know, he had quite an impactful life. So
Wow, he
I
sounds fascinating.
played with the idea about doing a solo show about that, and discussed it with a few people, and they said, wow, that would bring a lot of interest. So, you know, it's in the back of the mind.
Yeah, great. Oh, good luck with that. That's keep me informed. Keep me
I will.
informed. Keep me informed, Ben.
I will. And what would you say has been the most challenging role or moment in your career? Was it perhaps the other day, which we discussed before this interview?
It was a challenging moment.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think. That was, to be honest with you, I feel a little bit traumatised by it, if I'm honest, to a degree, because, I mean, I'll tell you what happened again, so we've got it on camera. So there we were, we're filming a feature film gangster movie, and it's set in Liverpool.
Yeah.
And it's about this gangster, and he's dying, basically. And in this film, there's this sort of small gang of armed robbers, and they go and break into hold up post offices.
Yeah.
But when they do it, they've all got different sort of disguises.
Yeah.
Mine's a chicken head mask, okay.
Yeah.
And there's another one who's a seal.
Yeah.
And there's another one that's a cow. So you can imagine, it looks.
It's not Barack Obama and Biden like they do in the movies these days. They tend to use politicians, don't they, in the movies? And all that.
It's got a very sort of Guy Ritchie sort of feel to it, to a sense.
I love a Guy Ritchie.
Yeah, with the old sort of tongue-in-cheek dark humour, you know. So what happened was we were filming a raid, one of the raids that they do, and I go in first, and I get the swag, hold the place up, and then we run out and we get into a van, that speeds up. So there we are. We're on location now in a place called a little sleepy Cheshire town called Frodsham. And we're on the high street, and it's a Sunday morning, so you can imagine it's just people just sort of beginning to go about their day, and it's quite sort of Middle England, I guess, and it's anyway, I do this, we scene, action, do the scene, I run out into the street with this chicken mask on, and it's the visibility is not great anyway, and I literally run out, and all I can see is the insides of a police officer's retinas, literally, with a gun. And I still got it there now. Screaming at me to get on the floor. And I thought, is this part of the film I haven't seen yet, or am I having some kind of weird experience, out of body experience? But no, it was the police had been notified, as far as I know, but a certain unit hadn't got the memo.
Yeah, yeah,
And so they'd come all the way from a place called Northwich, which is about, I think it's about 10 miles away. But
yeah,
so a whole armed unit
yeah.
out the sleepy streets of Frodsham, and I think, if I'm honest with you, I think my backside's still on a street there.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, crazy experience.
Yeah.
And
In terms of challenging,
Yeah,
just I have to say, there's been, because I suppose I'd see myself as, well, I'm a character actor, but I have to say, I played Adolf Hitler last year
yeah,
in a film, and that was the weirdest experience.
yeah,
Just trying to get into his mindset and learn about it. And of course, with any character you're playing, you've got to find things that are redeeming about them,
yeah,
and that you can connect with, if you like, almost.
Yeah.
And I think that was a real challenge, because the more I kind of got into his mindset,
Yes.
and the more I read, the more I was lucky. We're so blessed as actors that we have this thing called YouTube, but
yeah,
we can just watch and watch and watch. I mean, and he was that was a really strange, and actually how someone can really, because he was very charismatic.
yeah,
He was an incredible orator, and actually I think someone said to me that he was, he may have been trained by an actor, or helped.
interesting. Yeah,
And when you actually look at some of those rallies that he did, some of the famous rallies and those speeches,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and how before he would take a pause,
yeah, yeah,
before he would speak,
yeah,
it kind of it makes a lot of sense.
yes.
But yeah, that was a real challenge, and yeah, it's yeah.
And what would you say overall in this industry are the advantages and disadvantages of working in it?
Well, the advantages are well, most importantly, I think whatever job that you're doing in life, if you do a job that you enjoy, and that's already a bonus, because not people don't always have that, you know.
Yeah.
Some people do a lot of stuff that they don't. It doesn't make them very happy, in very stressful situations, just to pay their bills.
Yeah,
But you know, to do a job that you like, to get paid to do a job that you like, is a bonus.
yeah,
To do a job where you can travel whilst doing the job that you like is another bonus.
yeah,
And I think actually, in such an industry, I think where 94% of, I don't know, it's a crazy stat, of actors were out of work at any one time.
Yeah.
And I think that was something that came out when I was leaving drama college back in '95, where, you know, it was incredibly tough then. And I think there's more places where you can train. Also, there's reality TV, of course, as well.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, everything's changed an awful lot.
yeah,
But I think it's harder now than it is than ever. So really for me, my advice to young people, I think, if they want to get into the business, is to, well, firstly is to get on stage as much as possible.
Yeah.
Especially if you're young, make as many mistakes as possible. That's really important, really find your niches and your things, the kind of roles that you're good at. But I think really is getting a plan B, C, D, E, F, G.
yeah. Oh, definitely.
Things that
Yeah.
you can fall back on. I really wish, actually, my sister's an amazing creative hairdresser. She's like hairdresser, she's a stylist.
Yeah,
And she's won all kinds of accolades over the years.
yeah,
But, you know, even just to cut hair, you know, something that you could just do that's always going to need doing.
yes,
And then do that, and then you've got some kind of security to then pursue
Yeah.
your career as an actor. I think the way that I did it's probably not the healthiest one. Busking in tube stations and this, that, and the other. And
Yeah.
at one point, I think I was living rough actually for a short amount of time in London because I was there was no work, and it was literally it was as desperate as that to keep going. But I did. I'm quite a resilient person, and I think inside there is there's a bit of self-belief there as well. And, no one else is going to see it. I'll make sure I see it. You know,
Yeah.
do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Before anything else. I think that's really important. But yeah, the business is, and the thing is, people can get, you know, my dad never wanted me to go into it. He said to me, be a salesman. And I said, Dad, because he was a salesman, he was an incredible salesman, and he was working, he was a very inventive man, but I said to him at the time, I said, it's the same thing, Dad.
Yeah.
You know, it's absolutely what you're doing now. You're playing a role, you're talking to me, you're playing the interviewer, you're still playing a role.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that man, the gentleman serving the drinks over there,
Yeah.
the waiter.
We're in a restaurant, by the way.
We're in a restaurant.
So yeah. Okay, well, it's been very insightful, Daniel. Thank you.
Thanks
Pleasure.
so much. Thanks.